Hello, my name is Stephanie Yoakum, and I live in the First Ward. I volunteer extensively with Comac Mobile Aid Collective, as you know, and I'm with Loaves and Fishes as well, and I'm requesting 5 minutes in case I need it. I'd like to start by saying that Wabash and the area around it is no one's solution to anything. It's been a low-effort Band-Aid on behalf of the city. It's been 7 months since I was last up here. We're still begging for the city to make a concerted effort at compassionate solutions. The homeless shelters are all full. The rehab facilities are all full. The mental health services are severely backlogged with limited Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 business hours. Housing vouchers are so backlogged, they're essentially worthless. We know a lot of people that have them. They don't really do them any good. This is not an issue that will simply go away by trespassing everyone from Wabash. I also would urge you guys to listen to the voices of those who advocate for those who can't advocate for themselves, and not just the voices of affluent generational wealth. I urge you, when coming up with solutions for homelessness in downtown Columbia, to listen to those, the voices of those who interact with some of these people on a regular basis, not just the property owning and business owning individuals. At the very beginning, Tanner mentioned someone's stuff being chained to a light for a while. Those items chained to the light pole for an extended length of time belong to a woman that we will call Danielle. She's kind, relatively self-sufficient given her situation, loves to draw. She was hit by a vehicle. No known legal action was taken. She broke her femur. She has a rod in her leg, and she's been making her way around with a walker when the limited bus services and routes aren't available. And that was everything that she owned, and it's gone. So when someone found her downtown, I was contacted. I picked her up. I gave her what we do: snacks, a blanket, basic toiletries. She also doesn't have an ID, so she can't even go to a hotel. So another unhoused individual used their own dollars for her to have a couple of nights in a cash motel so that she could sleep, because no one wants to be there, especially someone with a broken femur sleeping on concrete. I assure you she doesn't want to be there, and she doesn't want her stuff there either. She just has nowhere else to go. According to the city's most recent mission statement listed on their 2021 strategic plan, they are to serve the public equitably through democratic, transparent, and efficient government. Since I was last up here 7 months ago, we have served over 4,000 small meals to those on the street. We have provided basic medical care, medical appointment transportation, over-the-counter medication, and humanitarian comforts such as bug bite cream hundreds of times. We've handed out thousands of water bottles. Several downtown businesses have stepped up to assist. Several churches are doing their best to expand their services to meet our knowledgeable requests. We're doing all of this on a shoestring budget, with volunteers espousing radical hospitality and direct action. Concerning the co-responders, you're not recreating a wheel, you're just underpaying for the positions. Many other cities have successful programs in place with evidence to show that they do work. The city has the funds and the buildings. Private businesses have the land and buildings downtown and downtown adjacent that can be used immediately. Opportunity Campus is still years away. Homelessness becomes illegal statewide in 6 weeks, thanks to Governor Parson. The fairgrounds do not have any kind of services nearby. That's going to be a hot cesspool in a metal building with nothing else to do. Stating that folks gather at Wabash due to services that we provide is a false equivalency. We serve numerous folks at camps and turning points with the same effort, and those areas aren't considered the kinds of nuisance areas either. We're serving your citizens equitably, efficiently. We're doing our absolute best given the resources we have. Are you? Are you actually doing your absolute best given the resources that you have?
Hi there, I'm Catherine Armbrust. I'm one of the coordinators for the Comac Mobile Aid Collective, and I would like to request 5 minutes because I'm tired and have a lot to say. Also, let me put my glasses on, take my pen out of my hair. Let's get ready here. So just a reminder, Comac Mobile Aid Collective, we run the mobile soup kitchen and the first aid clinic at Loaves and Fishes, among many, many other things. I love this work, and I'm really tired right now, y'all, and y'all probably are too, but we served about 100 lunches today to hungry, food, and housing insecure folks. We go to some of the camps around town. We serve folks on the street corners or people spending time downtown. Last year, we were serving about 40 to 50 people at this time of year. Last week, we were serving 80. Then we had 2 other camps contact us, and now we are prepping 95 to 100 servings on Mondays and Wednesdays when we go out. So I'm going to repeat that a lot of people have said that it's a growing issue. Many of the meals that we serve are to folks who inhabit the visible and invisible spaces of the downtown area, and of course, use Wabash or nearby benches and parks as resting places. And we all need to rest, right? We all deserve a place to sit and rest and a place to lay our heads and sleep and hopefully feel safe. On January 1st, when HB 1606 goes into effect, will our city begin punishing people for resting? Will we see our unsheltered friends being saddled with more and more write-ups or arrests for trespassing while they are simply trying to rest? As we've said, we are in the middle of a humanitarian crisis. Many resources still remain inaccessible for this ever-growing number of folks who fall into those different levels of homelessness, like Pat mentioned earlier. We've repeated shelters are full, rehabs are full, mental health resources are challenging to attain, medicines are costly and often out of reach for some of the folks we work with. Our friends downtown and across the city are in crisis. And I'm going to echo what a lot of people have said, that the city has to step up to take responsibility for the citizens in crisis. Why can't the city help provide these services? Do they have to be outsourced? I don't know. Will our friend Dee be punished because she sleeps on the sidewalk because there is literally nowhere else for her to go? And her health and mental health present very particular challenges. Will L be punished for sleeping on a bench or in an alley? He's already lost fingers and bones in his hand to frostbite. He's a former boxer with his own set of mental health challenges, most likely from multiple traumatic brain injuries. Will J and A be punished for sleeping downtown? As Steffi mentioned earlier, we know people like them that have a housing voucher but can't find a place to take them. And housing, again, will not solve everything. So many folks that we work with would not be able to maintain an apartment due to mental or physical issues. Will C and S and B and D and J and A and B and a whole other B and all the other folks we know be punished for sleeping on the sidewalks or in a park? The time has come to create real solutions to this crisis. Wabash has been a Band-Aid, and as we've all admitted tonight, it's not the final solution. But until the city implements an accessible, low-barrier, year-round space for people to rest, Wabash and other downtown areas will continue to be a go-to for folks in need. And like Michael said, they go downtown the same reason we all do. Downtown is great, right? Realistically, there will always be food and housing insecure folks downtown, just as there will always be local consumers, college students, and tourists. We are all part of the same community, and we all deserve to be shown that our city government cares about us. And I do want to respond a little bit to using Turning Point or Wilkes as a winter solution, which I think is great, although we all are concerned about the compassion fatigue in the First Ward. But what happens often at Turning Point is a lot of people that we work with get banned. So that could then affect their ability to use that space in the winter. So as we've mentioned, there's likely to be multiple people, 15, 20, 30 people who don't fit into those shelter spaces that you're suggesting. And they often get banned from RADI as well. And I do want to respond to the Opportunity Campus not being a solution for everyone. I am so excited about it, and I wish that it was 3 years now. I wish it was built now, because we need it. But people from the Opportunity Campus, including Mark, whose name I can't remember his last name, he came to Wabash over the winter, and he saw who we were serving there, and he told us that he was aware that those people would probably not be served by the Opportunity Campus. And other people involved in the planning have mentioned that as well. So there's a huge gap that everyone is asking for you all to take on and fill. And I love Tracy's idea about having a YMCA. I don't know how that happens, but if y'all can look into some of these other options, we would really appreciate it. And I know that our unsheltered friends downtown would as well. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. My name is Margaret McConnell. I live at 2102 Parks Edge Place. I do work with Loaves and Fishes, with Como Mobile Aid Collective, and with other groups, but I'm speaking to you now as a citizen from Columbia, a private citizen. Everybody here knows that we need an alternative to Wabash. That was a temporary solution, an emergency solution. But simply closing Wabash means that maybe people would not be sleeping on the street in downtown Columbia, but it sends them out to the camps along the highway, and that's state land, that's public land. And according to the law that our governor signed 2 weeks ago, you can't camp on state land. And not only that, he put you all as local government, but us as a city, if we don't enforce that ordinance, if we do not arrest people who are camping on state land, then the state can sue us. And now we're between a rock and a hard place, because back in 2018, the U.S. Ninth Circuit Court, under federal law, ruled that you can't punish people for sleeping outside in the absence of adequate alternatives, that it is against the Constitution. So if our local law enforcement does not arrest people who are camping on state land, the state can sue us. If they do arrest people, then the ACLU and other groups are ready to provide, ready to name the city as well as others in a lawsuit in federal court. Now we're stuck. So what are we going to do? Well, here's the out. We need acceptable alternatives, adequate alternatives. And I'm sorry, but that's your job. And every single one of you ran for office. You got the intellectual wherewithal to campaign, to acquire public office, or to be hired by the city because you have the appropriate qualifications. You got the necessary skills. August 28th is when the law goes into effect, and that's 40 days. It sounds kind of biblical, doesn't it? But you're on notice. If you do not come up with adequate alternatives in 40 days, you're derelict in your duty. You know, it's like in middle school when you had that big group project and there was always some kid that goofed around, and now all of a sudden the teacher says your proposal, your presentations are due next week, and boy, you're stuck. You got 40 days. This is your job. You can do it. I know that there is no perfect solution. You're going to have to pick an imperfect one and see what you do to work around the flaws. But this is your job, and you got to do it. And it's not middle school, because people's livelihoods and people's lives are at stake. But I tell you what, believe it, your response to this is going on your permanent record.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melissa McGowan. I live in Ward 3. I would like to address why people gather at Wabash. It isn't because it's a great place to be or that their needs are being met there. They simply have no alternatives. It has been heartbreaking to watch people try to get comfortable on concrete floors in the winter, to try to help them set up tarps and cardboard shelters to protect them from the storms we had all spring, and to take water and cold snacks to the neighbors hunkering down in the shade while the temperature continues to rise. I promise you, based on interactions I've had with these folks over the last several months, if they had an alternative, they would not choose Wabash. Waking in the morning, exposed to the public, having to get ready for another day without running water and with only poorly maintained sets of porta potties at your disposal is not a dignified way for anyone to exist. A place to rest, to get clean, to have a bit of privacy is not in any way what Wabash provides. Remember, every day these individuals are lingering at a place that literally offers free transportation to other parts of town, but none of those destinations offer what they need either. You can't get to the driver's license bureau so that you can get the hotel room. You can't get to the voluntary action center to get your birth certificate so that you can get your license, so that you can get the hotel room. You can't get into rehab. Everything's full. There are weeks-long waits everywhere. And again, you need identification. If legal issues are your problem, the probation and parole office, same area. Can you get there by bus? Absolutely not. So there are people who truly want somewhere else to be. They want their needs met, not just snacks, but actual permanent change that will help them on this journey. And none of that is what Wabash provides.
Thank you.
Good evening, Tracy Wilson-Kleekamp. I'm just going to kind of run through some of the things I saw tonight, starting from the work session. These are things that Race Matters Friends has been talking about for the past few years. The first thing I wanted to say is that I thought Lester Wood's presentation was important in helping us understand how our transportation system is a failure. If there was any message to take home from that we have companies coming here to do business and their employees don't have a way to get to work, and our local churches are thinking of doing a valet service to help them get to work, it says a lot about how we've planned for our infrastructure to serve our community. So that was my take home from that. The survey information that you are all looking at tonight about ARPA, for people who have experience in quantitative and qualitative research, the quantitative part of that was problematic in that if you have a survey where have a sample that's over-represented by 80% or 78%, it is a dead survey. You cannot triangulate data out of a survey that so inadequately represents the community. Not only that, white women, as I looked at it, or a 2-to-1 represented in the survey. That is not a representative survey. You cannot triangulate that data into qualitative data because it's not representative of the community. What it does tell you is that, you know what, we need to learn how to do or get people there in our infrastructure that know how to do quantitative data analysis. So you can't, Nick, as you were asking, you cannot put those things together because they can't go together because it's just not there. The other thing I want to talk about is the unsheltered situation, and that is that there is a team of us from Race Matters and some allied groups that we've been meeting with Mike Griggs, talking about how to meet the needs of our unsheltered community, but we were really interested in where are the gaps and why is there this miscommunication. And so one of the reasons that there's a miscommunication is that we discovered that, and this may sound kind of wrong, but that the city doesn't think it's their responsibility to be in the business of doing a number of kinds of social services. And so what I would say is that leaves us with Hooverville, which is Herbert Hoover. So we have to do a little bit of background on that. And so what we actually need is like a YMCA. So if you're thinking about the kind of resource that we need, just do a little homework on YMCAs. And they were a facility that allowed people who were unsheltered, homeless, traveling, or whatever, to have a place to stay, a place to eat. That was something that they were very famous for. But really making a dent on helping people who were in the margins of our society for different reasons. The fact that our business community is upset about unsheltered people in our community says that we have failed to meet the needs of our most marginalized and most vulnerable people in terms of our public policy. And so if we really believe in equity and inclusion as it is stated in our strategic plan, we really have to put our money where our mouth is. And so this is budget season where everybody starts talking about the budget. This is an opportunity to rethink your priorities, to rethink your spending. Of course, you have this ARPA money, but if you're going to use that survey, it's not going to help you very much because it mostly represents people who make over $100,000 or more, and that's not where you need to be. So at the end of the day, the question is, does the city have a peculiar indifference to poverty and marginality? Or is this body going to rise to the occasion with a budget season coming in session and make some difficult decisions about your spending priorities? If you don't do that, all of these social issues that you're confronted with will expand and flourish, and will be on your watch, and it's always the council's fault.
Thank you.
Rebecca Shaw.
I want to think outside the box for a moment on our issue of how do we house the unhoused? Because there has been multiple people who've come before you before and said a building isn't even necessary for some of these people. What about a sanctioned camp, a piece of property, open property? We have mutual aid groups that supply tents and supplies. There is space in our public parks. There is space between buildings. There is space everywhere around this town. And it's something that we should also think about. And as Tracy stated, we have been talking with Mike Griggs, and we've been brainstorming with a few of the Parks and Rec people. What does it look like for us to provide mobile showers and mobile restrooms? Because I'll tell you, if you don't want people finding a space downtown to use the restroom that's not a restroom, you need to provide the restroom. This doesn't seem like this is rocket science. We have 0 public facilities in this town. It's incredible to me. I've traveled Germany. I used a public restroom that cost me 10 cents to go in, use a beautifully maintained facility, and have someone on site that would go in and clean after each person used that restroom. That 10 cents is something that someone can easily get on the sidewalk downtown. I mean, there are solutions. We have the money. We really need to think about what we should be supplying the people that don't have resources. I do want to thank the business owners who came up to speak for kind of joining this fight. I know it's not by choice. I appreciate the compassion that they have all shown. This isn't an attack on our unhoused neighbors. This is a query for our council to come up with a solution that we have all been asking for months. I'm happy to hear that you guys are trying to work out something for Turning Point and for the fairgrounds in the winter. I do want to say that you will still have people downtown that don't want to make a journey out there, don't want to get on the transport out there. What is the plan for those people? Are we going to hear stories in the newspapers about finding frozen people in the streets? It will happen. I hope that we can all come together, sit down, figure out a solution, and appease everyone.
Good evening. Ken Green, local artist. I'm like a lot of these folks. I see these people every day. I speak to them all the time. I give them food. I give them water. I try to give them comfort. I see the people that are helping them all the time. Lockers where people can put their stuff. It's like when you come into Union Station and you want to walk around town for a little bit, maybe stay a day or so. Put your stuff in a locker. You look like a normal human being walking around enjoying what's happening. Small houses that don't cost much to put up. The housing authority should be right on top of that. They should be teaching the kids in school how to build these small houses. Compassion. The not in my backyard habit is the one big problem that's holding back a lot of this stuff. A free ark where you can go and get a bath, take a dump, have somebody look at your feet, play ball, lay around, just relax. Free. The city should pay for that instead of these other services so that there's no impediment for you to be a regular person. Those are little things you can start with. And help somebody. Give some money to somebody. A lot of times you're saying you're helping a panhandler, but they need the money, right? Some of this ARPA money. How about a nice, happy birthday present or a windfall for somebody poor? Rich people get subsidies for nothing, just showing up. Why can't a poor person get a subsidy for just showing up? Things like that. Consider them another human being. The consanguinity of our blood is one blood. Help your neighbor. Do something now. The place right there at Wilkes behind Groves Construction, that could easily have some cinder blocks built and have people go in there for the wintertime. Look a little harder, work a little harder, share the load. Thank you.